Welcome to London, the libel capital of the world.
£600,000 in damages.
Where defending your name can take everything you own.
To decide the meaning of these words will have cost £200,000.
This is the High Court, where QCs and judges decide who pays and who gets paid.
If they said to me, you can have £1 million, that might be tempting.
Some people find what newspapers print or television says unforgivable.
Hey, Uri, what's this thing with Michael Jackson? Is it true?
Some people will do anything to set the record straight.
Worst case scenario is it goes away to trial and I don't sell the house. Where am I going to get 200 grand from in November?
So why get yourself into this position? Why take the risk?
I want justice. However much I don't want to go to court, I will.
So be careful what you say. See you in court may be the most expensive words you'll ever hear. Tonight, the story of how a claimant fights for his reputation despite having no money to do so. A Tamil hunger striker sues the Daily Mail over a headline that's left him fearing for his life.
The whole community now feeling shame because of me.
He's a shame to the Tamil race. We should kill this Parameswaran bastard.
But this Tamil refugee is also represented by Britain's best-known libel firm.
It was a piece of rubbish, effectively, published across 2 pages in the middle of the best-selling newspaper in this country.
And we just show them that we are going to start the hunger strike. We are on hunger strike until our last breath. And really, people are really applauding us.
Support for this flag drew thousands of Tamils in April 2009 to Parliament Square, across from the Houses of Parliament.
We want ceasefire!
They came to protest about how the government in Sri Lanka was treating the Tamil population there and the Tamil Tiger rebels fighting for an independent state. Then what one 28-year-old Tamil student decided to do took this protest to news screens around the world.
He told me he decided he was ready to die after his mother was killed in the government offensive, along with his sisters who were rebel fighters and other members of his family.
I want answer for my family's death. Otherwise, I won't step back from this place. I have nothing to lose more, only my life.
The hunger strike lasted 23 days.
I understand what they want. They want to break my hunger strike. But I want to tell them what I want. Please understand. I want the ceasefire.
And everyone was praying, you know, in their churches, in their temples, even in my local temple at home, they were praying for him. And he said, look, like, you know, if I die, you shouldn't give this struggle up. Like, keep it going. Use my death as a tool to keep the struggle going.
Everybody was crying, please stop, please stop. And then eventually, thank God he did. And everybody was so relieved.
The end of the hunger strike left Parameswaran a hero to his fellow Tamils. But 6 months later, the Daily Mail ran a 2-page spread that changed things for him forever. They called him a hunger-striking fraud. Since that day, Parameswaran no longer walks the streets of Mitcham in South London where his friends live, along with many of the 200,000-strong Tamil communities in the UK.
After people have seen the article, he can try not to walk around here. I mean, his daily life is disturbed. Like, you cannot walk to a shop to buy a bar of chocolate or something like that. Some people even threaten to kill him, like on the text messages and phone calls.
The Tamils, they feel shame What the newspaper they say, Tamil hunger strike act, doing the fake hunger strike. The whole community now feeling shame because of me.
Then, with the help of the human rights charity Liberty, Paramaswaran and his Tamil supporters were introduced to Carter Ruck, the biggest law firm in the libel field. Situated in the heart of the city, they've represented libel claimants from Simon Cowell to Elton John. But in fact, half of Carter Ruck's clients are now nurses, doctors, taxi drivers, as well as Tamil refugees. That's because of CFAs, conditional fee agreements, popularly known as no win, no fee.
The costs have got completely out of control in libel. Well, lawyers charge on an hourly rate, and it's usually several £100s an hour, so that's 10 hours' work would be beyond the resources of most ordinary people.
So 16 years ago, the government changed the rules to allow firms to act for people in libel cases on a no-win, no-fee basis.
We take on cases because we believe we can win them, but we also genuinely want to help people as well. But we make a living out of them. I'm fine with that.
But the only way a law firm can make money from a CFA case is to win it. If they don't, it may have cost the client nothing, but the lawyers get nothing back for the time they've put into the case. With half of Carter Ruck's clients represented on a CFA basis, the pressure is on to choose your client wisely.
These letters they're called letters of claim. This is going to be the first time that the newspapers become aware of your claim, so it's absolutely vital, not just that the content is accurate, but that the tone is also accurate and reflects your feelings about the case. Paramaswaran came and had a conversation with me. I had to ask a number of, as you always do, a number of awkward questions. You can ask outright questions, did you break your fast? Did you cheat? The decision whether or not to act on a CFA on a no-win, no-fee basis is purely evidence-based. If the merits of the case are there, if the case is strong enough, if we've got the evidence and a client isn't able to fund the case any other way, then we'll look at helping and doing it on a no-win, no-fee basis. So people that wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to protect their reputation, and Paramaswaran is a perfect example of that, are able to. Effectively, you were a hero for the Tamil community. Then we need to look at what has happened to that reputation since publication. With a libel claim, the chief concern is the damage that has been done to your reputation. One of the phrases that's used in the definition of what is libelous is it something that causes people to avoid or shun you? I don't think any thought went into the damage that was going to be caused to my client at all. I do have enormous respect for what journalists do. My dad was an editor on the Times and in the Sunday Times. They're not there to be vilified, except in some circumstances. This could be one of them. We'll see.
I guess it's in the form of a press statement from somebody in the police to the press office, and it's in the form of a question saying, did you use surveillance teams or specialist monitoring equipment to monitor the men on hunger strike in Parliament Square? And it says no.
Yeah. The Sun itself was contacted.
Magnus has asked one of the firm's lawyers to get further evidence on the central fact in the Mail's article, that Scotland Yard's surveillance teams had watched in disbelief as Paramaswaran secretly ate McDonald's burgers.
I went down to Scotland Yard with Paramaswaran, and we met with Superintendent Hartshorn, and they said to me that categorically there was no surveillance cameras on Paramaswaran, nor were there any surveillance teams which were watching him throughout the hunger strike.
And that nobody saw anyone taking food to Paramaswaran?
No.
Okay, so that's key.
What the lawyers have also found out is that when a second newspaper, The Sun, picked up the Daily Mail article and put it online, it was quickly phoned by the Metropolitan Police.
the Sun itself was contacted, as opposed to the journalist from the Sun contacting the police. It actually went the other way. It was the police contacting the Sun, telling them that what they'd written, what they published, was wrong.
That's how I understand it. Somebody from the press office told the Sun to correct the article, but obviously that wasn't the case.
And they didn't. Fantastic.
This is an important point, as despite that information, the article stayed up on the Sun website for 46 more days. The 27th of November is a special day for the Tamil community. Almost 60,000 Tamils have come to a ceremony celebrating the fallen heroes in the fight with the Sri Lankan government. Today is also very special for Paramaswaran.
This is the first event after the news from the Daily Mail and the Sun. This is the first event I'm outside. Today really I'm nervous.
Paramaswaran has had good reason to hide away. Immediately after the article saying his hunger strike was a fraud, the death threats began, sent by Tamils angry that he'd let them down. Over 40 texts in the day after publication.
Here's the first one. It says, pick up a copy of the London Light and read how the bastard Paramaswaran Mac faked his way through the hunger strike. He's just shame to the Tamil race. And the second one was, it says, I also want to do hunger strike, but I don't want Big Mac, I want chicken sandwich. Makale, that means people, before we do any protests, we should kill this Paramaswaran bastard.
But Paramaswaran's supporters are fighting back. They've posted on the internet a recording of a telephone call made to Scotland Yard by a Tamil asking about the police surveillance referred to by the Daily Mail.
Sir, there was a news came up yesterday by the Sun paper and the Daily Mail. It's just quoting that the Scotland Yard has issued a statement, says that while he was on the hunger strike, he was eating a McDonald's burger. Do you know anything about this? No. Have you issued, the Scotland Yard has issued any sort of videos or any evidence regarding about this? No, we haven't. It's not from us. I can't comment on what they do. It's nothing to do with us. You're assuming that Scotland Yard told them that because it's written. You're believing what's in the newspaper.
What's written in newspapers and what's true is the basis of most of Carter Ruck's libel business.
We do have incredibly good professional editors and journalists, but sometimes they overstep the mark, and that's when we arrive on the scene. The Daily Mail are the toughest opponent. Bizarrely, and I don't know if you'll believe me, but the Sun very rarely get things wrong. They have a really high standard of accuracy. Some other newspapers tend to use lots of freelancers or pick up stories just to put them in the newspaper that they haven't checked themselves. That leaves them open to being sued. Half they'll just say, yes, we've read your letter, we've talked to the journalist, we've got it wrong, we're going to apologise and pay up. And the other half, particularly the Daily Mail, will tell you where to go, and you start fighting.
It's taken 2 months for the Daily Mail to reply to Magnus's letter of claim, and they haven't addressed his question about the evidence they have. Instead, they've referred to information not in their original article, that Paramaswaran had high blood sugar levels and said that that must mean he had been eating.
They're being quite bullish, and by looking at the letter, it's clear that they've got at least 3 sources. They say they've got 2 authoritative police sources and 1 source from London Ambulance Service. When you read this, I don't know how you felt, Paramaswaran, but it's quite scary almost. When you read this letter and you read the way that they're portraying these meetings, it's like ambulance service are meeting with the police and talking about the blood sugar levels, but they were talking about that because they were very, very concerned about your health. The worst possible thing that could have happened was if you passed away in Parliament Square, and so they're very, very concerned about that. So that's what they were talking about at these meetings, not that they were suspicious that you were eating food.
They said if my blood sugar level is going down, they said your kidney is going to fail very quickly.
Yeah.
And then you go to coma, and finally you're going to die.
Yeah.
So they said you must always drink a high level of water.
Yeah.
And then only your kidney will be alive.
Yeah.
and that will keep you a long time to continue your protest.
Did they ever put it to you that your blood sugar levels were fluctuating because you were eating?
No.
They're calling you a liar?
Yeah.
Or they're saying that you've lied so far?
I'm ready to challenge anyone, because I'm not a fake one. I'm ready to challenge everyone. Who is ready to challenge with me, come forward.
Yeah.
Understand? I'm not hide anywhere.
Libel cases often turn on whose word is to be believed. At Carter Ruck, they regularly face this problem.
It's very quickly, as soon as possible. So
it's very difficult to tell if people are telling you the truth or not. It's documents which trip people up. It's very difficult to spot a liar. Sometimes you can in the first meeting, but if they're cunning, even the most senior judges in this country say to you that they cannot spot a liar just from a person standing in the witness box. I acted for a psychiatrist for about 2 years, and I was completely believed everything he said. And then one day, a letter arrived from the other side. He told me he was a professor of psychiatry. And one day it arrived, and it showed that this university had never made him a professor, and his whole story just fell apart after that. And that was incredible. We had about £300,000 or £400,000 of costs on the clock.
To add to their evidence, Paramaswaran's supporters send in a DVD they've compiled to give Magnus and Michelle a clearer picture of the hunger strike scene.
When you see it, you start to realise quite how ludicrous the allegations are. The fact is that there were queues of people, sometimes up to 5-6 hours a day, that wanted to simply just walk past his tent and pay their respects. There was no way in which he could have, been eating. He was in full view of crowds of people. At the risk of stating the obvious, it makes you realise the sacrifice that Paramaswaran made.
Paramaswaran's crying.
The problem was, it wasn't almost suicidal, it was suicidal.
But it's looking increasingly likely that going to court is the only way Paramaswaran can prove his protest was genuine.
The newspaper is telling us that they maintain their position, and they maintain the fact that they're going to try and justify these allegations. And what we're not finding out is that the Daily Mail has direct evidence of him eating Big Macs. And what's interesting is that if the Daily Mail did have that evidence, where is it? And if they were in a position where they could stop this case in its tracks, you've got to ask yourself why they haven't tried to do that.
But with the Daily Mail holding their line, Magnus's next step is to find a barrister to fight the case in court. William Bennett has also agreed to act on a no-win, no-fee basis, even though he's not yet met Paramaswaran.
He's embarking now on a really tough battle. He's fighting not only the Daily Mail, which is backed by a multi-million corporation. He's also fighting The Sun, which is ultimately owned by Rupert Murdoch, another multi-million-pound organisation. Ultimately, because libel litigation is still, if it goes to trial, heard by a jury, you've got to try and think of what would 12 normal men and women make of this guy. I've got printouts of 2 text messages. Before we do any protest, we should kill this Paramaswaran bastard. I mean, how does it make you feel that you've got a text message going around your community saying you should be killed?
I tell them to the Daily Mail, don't play with other countries' people like this. It's really feel very, very bad.
What this is saying about you is that Mr. Subramanian is a con artist on a huge scale. And there's no way of getting away from the fact the Daily Mail is accusing you of being dishonest. And then, just for good measure, the other allegation, even worse, his antics cause the police to waste a fortune in public money.
Yeah, but I denied everything what they are saying here.
Yeah. So that's, in my view, an extremely serious libel.
The Sun's repetition of the Mail's story online makes the damage to Parameswaran much greater in William Bennett's eyes.
There had been some people who'd read the Daily Mail article, then read the Sun article and say, oh look, the Metropolitan Police have told the Daily Mail and told the Sun that he was eating cheeseburgers. Right, yeah. So people were reading both articles, and I suspect many members of the Tamil community would, because they were following what was happening, thinking, well, you know, Mr. Subramaniam's banged to rights on this, isn't he? Libel litigation deals with two very, very strong, almost emotional feelings on either side. On the defendant's side, you've got the newspaper backing up its journalist. It wants to uphold its freedom of speech, very reluctant to set the record straight, because on another human level, it doesn't like to admit it's wrong. On the other hand, you've got the claimant. You take someone like Mr. Subramaniam. He's been kicked in the gut by this story, so he's not going to give up lightly. The real value for the claimant, if it comes to it, is going to court, standing in the witness box, and it's the chance that he gets. He's had the finger pointed at him to millions of people by the newspaper. He gets the chance to turn around and say, you got it wrong, and you made it worse. You treated me badly for these reasons, and now it's your turn to face the truth.
However, after 9 months, both the Daily Mail and the Sun have changed their tactics.
Both newspapers now have made something called an offer of amends, which means that they don't want to defend the claims. They're admitting that what they published was false.
Why did it take them so long to owe up to an apology?
I've no idea. It's the simple answer. Because nothing has changed since the day we wrote to them telling them that what they were publishing was wrong and they should apologise.
They are really torturing me nearly 6 months because with this article they are torturing. They are not interested in that case, really. They are playing with us.
You're right. And if you feel like they've treated you with contempt, that's exactly what it looks like. Both newspapers published a lie. What they published was, it was simply untrue. They could have done whatever investigative process they needed to do within 48 hours of receiving our letter of complaint.
The whole course that we done, the protest to bring out the genocide of the Tamils by the Sri Lankan government, it was ruined by those two articles. All the hard work, all the thousands or hundreds of thousands of Tamils put together, it's just ruined by one article they wrote.
And that's why this apology matters. That's why what we're going to obtain next is so important.
From experience, Magnus knows that there's a world of difference between a newspaper admitting they got an article wrong in a legal letter and apologising in their paper.
As part of the process of the offer of amends, both newspapers are in effect signing up to paying Parameswaran's legal costs, giving him a sum by way of compensation, and agreeing to publish some sort of apology. What matters is the apology. We're still not there yet. The phony war has ended, and now the real war, if you like, starts. The Mail, they're offering $35,000 in compensation and a form of apology. And the terms of publication of that apology are that they will publish it in the newspaper.
Yeah. That little paragraph.
That little paragraph. Compared to that. And they will publish it on the website for 24 hours.
Okay, 24 hours.
24 hours. Only. And that's the wording of the apology.
Only this paragraph, yeah?
Yeah.
Only that paragraph.
So, what do you think about it?
I think it's rubbish.
Yeah.
I think it's an insult. I think it's disgraceful. This newspaper, it has a circulation of approximately 2 million. This article was also published on the website, and that website itself has over about 2.3 million people view that website every day. So we're talking between 2 and 4 million people have seen this.
So really this is not enough.
It's completely hypocritical.
It's nothing really. This is really not only a joke. They again destroy my name.
I think the wording of that apology is revealing. In the first line, that the article only suggested that he regularly ate takeaway food. Well, this is the article, and the article suggests nothing. It asserts as fact that he ate during the hunger strike. Well, as soon as we were instructed by Parameswaran, the first thing we did was contact the superintendent who was in charge of the protest at the Metropolitan Police, who said he'd never seen Parameswaran eating, he'd never heard of anyone else seeing Parameswaran eating. The whole thing was ludicrous, according to the superintendent in charge. The biggest problem both newspapers have, in my eyes, is that they never made any attempt to contact the Parameswaran before publication, and that is a basic tenet of what we call responsible journalism. So the story itself reeks of contempt. At every stage in this litigation, that contempt has been echoed. And now, in effect, expecting our client to agree to a form of wording of an apology that is completely inadequate.
It takes another 4 weeks of negotiation with the papers to achieve an improvement in the wording of the apology. However, the real success is getting the papers to agree to the apology being read into the public record in the High Court.
Both newspapers are participating in a public apology in court. For Parameswaran, it's always been about the apology. It's always been about that public vindication, that acknowledgement that what they published was wrong. As well as the apologies and the statement in open court, the Sun has agreed to pay Parameswaran £30,000 in compensation, and the Daily Mail has agreed to pay £47,500 in compensation. I feel very strongly about this case. I've always felt strongly about it since meeting Parameswaran. From the first day we met, I knew he was telling the truth. To begin with, when we first met him, he was inward looking, he was clearly anxious, depressed by what had happened. It was important to him that we believed him, that the more we investigated the allegations, the more we investigated what he told us, everything that we got back kept telling us what he'd said had been right all along.
It's taken 10 months of legal negotiation to secure total victory for Parameswaran.
Thank you, Michael. Oh, my man. He's my man. He's my man.
The Daily Mail has asked us to point out that they carefully considered the allegations before publication and that they published the article in good faith based on information that, at the time, was understood to be reliable.